I think something big is coming to New World. Unfortunately, it's been delayed. We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to have a brief conversation about the chest run nerfs. Let's jump in. So somebody posted this on the forum. It's titled When Balance Patch. Very simple. And Anwin said, there's quite a bit of combat balancing coming. As it's more of an overhaul than just some number changes, we're planning to get it onto the PTR by the end of this month, pending any further adjustments. Now, some of you astutely out there will be like, isn't that a little bit slower than we anticipated? And the answer is yes. And then somebody replied with this, wait, what? Quick on its heels? That means 2-3 weeks away? Because previously, Delacron had said something along the lines of, beyond that, we have a pretty big announcement and a sizable PTR update, which will follow quickly on its heels. And somebody's saying, quickly on its heels, not really 2 or 3 weeks, right? If I'm honest, I sort of expected the next PTR to be going live probably next week. It sounds like it's going to be the week after that, or even the week after that. And then Delacron says, to be fair, there was a bit of a slight internal delay in order to polish things up to a high quality bar. It means a little more waiting, which I know is pretty brutal right now, but hopefully when the details are revealed and trailers released, it'll all make sense. To say more will get me assassinated by marketing. Now, this is interesting. Reading between the lines here, and I don't want to unnecessarily build up hype, which I realize I may definitely be doing, I'm sort of getting the vibe that something beyond what we saw on the roadmap might be on its way, and they're pretty excited for it. We haven't necessarily got a trailer for every bit of new content. Generally, they do it when it's actually worthwhile doing. So I'm sort of thinking we're going to get something relatively big. And this goes a little bit back to what Scott Lane said in one of the dev updates, which I can't remember exactly when, it was quite a few months back now. But they said that Amazon were going to be looking at making less patches, but with more content in them. I think this next patch is really where that starts. The leaderboards were never meant to be here. They were supposed to be out like a couple of months back. They got delayed. So really, they were actually planning on having a relatively big gap between Brimstone Sands and whatever we're getting now. And I think that's something we can expect going forward, because they pretty much overtly stated less patches, but more content in those patches. So at this point, I'm pretty sure that the next patch is going to be that spring update. So we're going to get everything that's on there. The new expedition, the gear set storage. We know we're going to get combat changes and possibly influence changes as well. The main story quests are coming as well. So we're possibly going to get 2 new zones. Or 2 reworked zones, I should say. But I think really the one that sort of hints at the biggest thing there is the Springtide Bloom event. Looking at what we got with the summer event and the fact that they keep trying to push it, I think we might be getting something like a new profession. I spoke about gardening before, or farming. I could very much anticipate something like that happening that they haven't called out. Quite often in a lot of the talks on the forums, they've been talking about stuff that, yes, we've not actually announced everything, there will be some hidden surprises. A new profession like that would definitely be a hidden surprise. Now, I could be completely off base. It could literally be anything. It could be, for example, a solo expedition that was hinted at previously. In fact, in the same video where Scott said there would be less frequent patches, but they would be bigger, I'm pretty sure that they said they were going to concentrate a bit more on solo content. So that's something we could see. Basically, I'm personally getting the vibe that we're getting something beyond just the spring update. Obviously, it is the spring update. What I mean is beyond what we see on the roadmap. Do I know what that is? No, we simply don't. I don't just want to be a peddler of hype, but I do sort of get the feeling, just reading between the lines, that there's going to be something beyond what they announced, and I'm getting a little bit excited for it. I personally thought that the spring patch would be relatively minor and that summer would be where it kicks off, but let's see what they actually deliver. However, we're not finished yet. I'm seeing quite an uproar on the forums and on Reddit about the changes to the chest runs. Now, this specifically seems to be regarding a solo chest run in Brimstone Sands. They removed some chests. Somebody posted this on Reddit, basically showing how many chests there used to be. So here you can see, for example, that there used to be 5, now there's 2. And it appears to be chests that you were able to get as a solo player. Now, I was never really doing this solo chest run. I'm sort of over chest runs in general. But the question is, do they actually want chest runs to be part of the main content? Well, the evidence sort of suggests no, but let's read what they actually said. Tiger Crane says this: thanks for your feedback on this. Regarding the removal of certain chests, these were removed in order to bring those solo chest runs gold per hour more in line with other routes and activities. Our goal is to keep an equitable balance across a variety of activities in New World and make sure players don't feel obligated to participate in a single slice of content or in-game activity. The aim is to rebalance more options for solo players across Eternum. Now, what I want to talk about about is on Reddit, I've replied to a couple of people. Some people were suggesting they should have just nerfed the chests and not told anybody. I am completely against that. I much prefer them putting this in the patch note and telling us exactly what they're doing. Now, they could have maybe told us why in the patch notes. I think that might have been okay, because they did say some people had economic concerns and everybody's like, well, we didn't, it was you, Amazon. And I'm also seeing people say that they should just buff other kinds of activities. And with that, I worry that if you just constantly buff, you're going to get inflation and power creep if it's in terms of combat. Nerfing is completely fine. Now, the bigger question for me is, considering what Scott said about solo content, do you want to nerf activities that solo players can do? I'm not so sure about that. I personally had concerns when they took away the gold from expeditions, so they made it so that you only get them from corrupted breaches. A bit of me thinks that this is a little bit opposed with each other. If you want people to do all the kind of content, then I think having that gold be rewarded in expeditions was perfectly fine considering the time investment. Obviously speedrunners can do it very quickly, but you know, it is capped at the end of the day. Now, this chest run, I don't know how valuable it was. I've not been doing it, but there's no reason to disbelieve Amazon. Maybe it was just getting too much good stuff for a solo player, or any kind of player for that matter. It's not necessarily wrong for them to nerf it, I don't think. I can understand why solo players might be frustrated over the concept of the game, and so am I. Personally, I think it needs wider changes, and until we get that, then I think just bringing down the peak activities is sort of fine. It's just a little bit weird that they probably need to increase solo capacity gameplay and then they're nerfing a solo run, which to me I think is the most confusing thing. I also think there's an argument to be made that chess runs where there's a big group of people running them shouldn't necessarily be in the game. They're not exactly challenging content, are they? It's just time content that gives you rewards. Personally, I'm over it, and you know, if Amazon are happy with it, let them keep it. I don't mind if people are getting their fun there, but it's not exactly challenging. However, a solo chess run, that can be difficult. You know, you've got to go through the right place, you've got to get the right stuff, you've got to go from the right angle. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because the outrage, I don't really quite fully get. I think it's okay to nerf it. You can argue about the core philosophy of the game, but if the core philosophy of the game is to have every activity on like level playing field, then nerfing the peak ones actually makes sense. Now, you could argue that they should buff some of the other activities to bring them in line, sure, but I don't think you should bring everything up to the highest peak. You should sort of bring the highest ones down and the lowest ones up and meet somewhere in the middle. And I don't necessarily think AGS do a great job of that. Anyway, those two completely different topics, but I just wanted to talk about that here. But I am getting more and more excited about this next update. It's possibly going to be bigger than we all anticipated. Unfortunately, it has been slightly delayed. If you want to be kept up to date though, you know where to be here, or 5ed, or Ginger Prime, or Jukesoft, anywhere really. But if you want to support me, then becoming a YouTube member or Patreon is the best way, or come and give me a follow over on Twitch. I'm streaming very infrequently, but I should be streaming tomorrow. What you should definitely do though is have the most beautiful day, like and subscribe. Goodbye.